dad's died, I was in shock. The older we get, the more grief, the more loss we have. It's just part of life. So I wasn't really planning on making a video about this, but I was requested to make it by a friend. And today I felt inspired after listening to a podcast and being a little bit triggered. And I thought I should share my experience on the subject. Just a quick disclaimer, I am going to be talking about suicide and some pretty intense things. So if you need to take some time out and have a little cry or support yourself or find a better time to listen to this, I would suggest to do that. So I've suffered with quite a lot of grief and loss in my life. I'm almost 30 years old now. I've had a parent pass away, which I will cover. I've recently had another family member pass away who was a sibling of my parent. And I started to have quite a lot of death from a lot of young people in my life from being a teenager. New Zealand suicide is quite common. So I know a lot of young people in my life and people all over that have also suffered with quite a lot of people in their life taking their own lives, which is just so sad. I always remember the saying, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So if you are feeling that way, please reach out. Life can get better and there is other options. There is support out there, even though it's so minimal. We don't have proper mental support systems, at least in New Zealand. So grief and loss is something we suffer so much in our lives. It's not just when people die, it's also when we lose people in relationships, we end relationships, or people even move away. We can also grieve when people leave our lives in that way, whether you've consciously chosen it or someone else has chosen it or someone has to move away. And healing and grief is not a linear line. It's not suddenly you're healed. You can suddenly be triggered and suddenly things they might not feel as heavy at the start when you find out news and eventually get heavier and move through it. My first kind of big loss I ever had in my life, I was 18 and an ex-boyfriend of mine died in a fire. My best friend rushed into the salon I was working into and she was like, he died. And I just was in shock. My partner at the time didn't really know him, and it was interesting grieving and being heartbroken over someone else when I was with someone else. And that was a really hard loss. And still to this day, it's still one of the hardest losses apart from my parent. And it taught me so much. Me and him, we weren't on good terms. I think I'd even unfriended him on Facebook. That loss taught me to always forgive, no matter what, water under the bridge. Now I was just like, if they died, would it really matter? And a lot of the times I'm like, no, people make silly mistakes. People make mistakes all the time, especially when they're young, and people deserve forgiveness. People deserve a second chance. And that was really hard. And that kind of set up a big line of deaths in my life. I had another ex-boyfriend. I dated him when I was about 15, but he was about 20 and he committed suicide. But I just always had so much regrets. Before he did that, he was actually reaching out to me. But all I remembered, there was repeating in my head that him telling people, he didn't want to tell people that we dated until I got hot. So I was always just like, whatever, you're not going to claim me now. And then when I found out that news, I was just like, I felt like I could have helped. I could have made a difference. Maybe he needed someone. Maybe he needed me. And that was so sad. I just really felt that was just not meant to be. He wasn't meant to go that early. When the boyfriend before that, he was a live hard, die young type of person. And I think he always knew that he was going to die young. One year, there was 3 suicides in my life. I wasn't super close with any of them, but it affected me so much. By the 3rd one, I actually started getting really suicidal. It made me feel like that was an option. When we just have to view that we're here, we decided to be incarnated here, that is not an option. suicide is not an option. You need to live it. You need to fight it. You need to go find somewhere where you'll thrive. And we can heal. We can do trauma healing. We can help. We can find love and happiness. We just have to really go and seek that and make a conscious choice every day to wake up and be happy, to do those affirmations, do those meditations, have those mindfulness practices, which will get us to higher levels of happiness. I know it's not as easy said and done. Depression hits so many people so hard, but there is the other side. We can make it out the other side. And then almost 2 years ago now, my sister calls me up and she said, oh, this one's really hard to talk about. But almost 2 years ago now, my sister calls me up. Our dad's died. I wasn't shocked. I didn't believe it. I didn't even start grieving this for a long time. I just was like, what? And I just wanted to carry on. I wasn't about to go drop everything and do that. I just didn't really believe it. And that was such an interesting healing process for me. I had an uncle die recently, and even though I wasn't close to him, it was really triggering because it was my dad's brother. And, they had similar rheumatoid arthritis that would have, eventually have got into their death and being unwell in their lives. And that was so not a linear healing process. I barely even cried from that at the start when my dad died. I just didn't really know how to process that. And it's interesting. In the first few weeks of it happening, because I believe in oneness, I still have such a beautiful connection with my dad now. I see him in my dreams. I've even talked to him in meditation. I've felt him around. When I went and traveled overseas and did big trips, I felt he was there. He was there protecting me. I actually felt a lot more protected after he died when I was traveling because I felt that he was there watching over me and being my guide. I think you never are prepared to lose someone like that, so important in your life. And yeah, it took a long time to really process that kind of loss. Everything takes time and we move through things in such different ways with each other. And everyone has such a different healing process. And my sister was in the guts of my dad dying. It was so heavy on her. And I was far away in another city. And I wasn't really there processing it. Even when they brought me his ashes, I wasn't even connected to that. It was quite interesting. I wasn't connected to that at all. That was his body. His soul was gone. And I didn't have any connection to that anymore. I'm still connected to his soul. It's so hard to process things when you're far away from something than when you're right in the midst of it. I have found that when people are older in life and they're older and suffering, for me, the process does seem easier because I feel like they're in a better place, right? They're not suffering. They're not hurting anymore. They're in the beautiful oneness of the universe and will always be connected to them. And it's just the older we get, the more grief, the more loss we have, the more see people leaving and dying. And it's just part of life. It's the only thing we're really guaranteed in life is that we're going to die. Some people don't even get to the birth thing. We have so many people that die before they even get to see this beautiful world. I do believe in reincarnation though. And I believe that people that are not done on earth here will come back. If you're dealing with grief and loss right now, you are not alone. Millions of people are feeling that right now. I don't know if that's comforting or not for you, but I know when I think about my feelings as a collective feeling and they're not mine to burden alone, that it helps me. We're not alone in our feelings. We never are. These feelings are a universal feeling, and we're so lucky to be in this body, even being able to have these feelings. It's sad as well that funerals actually bring people together. So this is a different kind of video for me, but I hope you guys can maybe learn from my journey, learn from my loss, find your own way through your own grief processes whenever it happens. And I love you guys very much. Remember to vote love every day with your words, actions, and thoughts. And I'll see you on the next one.